This series allows our contributors an opportunity to circle back and take a deeper dive into some of their ideas, as well as address feedback from you, our audience. Today I'm joined by Ryan Grant, president of Neo Home Loans. Ryan previously published an op-ed and recorded a follow-up Powerhouse episode in which he discussed the sunsetting of the traditional loan originator role and encouraged originators to evolve into mortgage advisors. Today I've got Ryan on to address some of the most pressing questions that content has generated. All right, Ryan, thank you for joining me.
Oh man, always happy to be here. Enjoy our conversations.
Me too, every time. Well, so before we jump into addressing some of the feedback from your article, why don't you quickly lay out what you're calling a mortgage advisor and contrast that role with the traditional LO?
Yeah, it's a great question. Oftentimes have to explain that. So the reason that we use the word mortgage advisor as opposed to loan officer is because I don't think anybody ever in their wildest dreams wanted to be a loan officer. If you look up the definition of loan officer in Google or anywhere else, it's a pretty bleak job description. And ever since I got into this business, especially every year that I'm in it, it reminds me more and more that a mortgage advisor armed with the right financial literacy, with the right approach to this business, with the right team, with the right technology and scalability, mortgage advisors are probably way more valuable than financial planners, than estate planning attorneys, than insurance agents, than CPAs. The problem is the way that we are seen in pop culture. When you tell someone you're in the mortgage business, it's not good. And we've done that to ourselves because we allow really low producing loan officers with very low financial literacy, with not even their own great finances or credit or real estate. We allow them to give advice and guidance to people on the largest transaction of their life. And so the reason I wanted to differentiate between a loan officer and a mortgage advisor is someone who is committed to helping people grow their long-term generational wealth, who's committed to helping them in every aspect of real estate or finance before a transaction ever starts, uniquely during the transaction, but most importantly afterwards. And if we focus on that as an industry, and if we commit to not letting loan officers degrade the value of a mortgage advisor, then not only will the consumer start to see us differently and expect more from us, but we will see that and experience that of ourselves, which I think is probably even more important because you can't give away what you don't have, right? And so more people that orientate towards, that have the orientation of a mortgage advisor in the mortgage business, the better off the industry will be, which means the better served our communities will be, and the more successful our clients will become throughout the years.
Whenever I was receiving the feedback from your both the article and some feedback from the podcast, one of the comments that kept coming up from originators was it boils down to like, yeah, that's great in theory, but I'm slammed.
Yep.
Where do I get the time? So, in your experience, what are the most practical ways for LOs to carve out the time to operate in this mortgage advisor capacity without feeling like they're piling on more, just adding one more thing to do on their checklist, or without like burning out?
Yeah, I could probably talk to you for hours on this subject, but have you ever heard of the concept of genius zone?
Yeah.
Okay, so genius zone work is when you are doing work that is highly valuable and gives you a good return on your investment, but also is highly energetic, right? Which means you get a good return on energy. So you could do it all day long and go home and go from fifth gear to sixth gear. Mortgage professionals, unfortunately, spend most of their time in their zone of excellence or their zone of competence, which is kind of medium to low return on energy, right? Stuff that they're good at, stuff that makes them money, but not energetically appealing, right? And it's not super valuable to the client either. And this is one of those things where, I spoke at a conference one time, and I told the whole audience how important it is that we add value to our clients post-closing. And the guy comes up to me afterwards. He goes, "Man, Ryan, I just have to be honest. I haven't been making my calls to my clients after closing." And I was like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't." He's like, "You just got off stage telling everyone how we need to do that." I said, "I didn't say you needed to do it. I said somebody needs to do it." Right? And there is energetic difference between a hunter and a gatherer, right? Somebody who is going out creating food versus somebody who is growing crops, farming, and gathering. It's nearly impossible for our brain to do both at once or to kind of toggle back and forth. There are different mechanisms in our brain. So I can't ask someone to go, do business development, meet with realtors, go to networking events, talk to clients, educate, do client consultations, do client intake calls, like all the front end of work that is required to run a successful business. I can't ask them to do that and then shift to a whole new side of their brain, which is planting seeds, adding value, and growing crops. It's just it's like running into a wall, right? And so I used to have it on my calendar every day, call past clients. I didn't even know what I was going to tell them. I was just going to check in and stay top of mind, but I never did it because it never felt like the most important thing, because I needed to find another loan, I needed to get another realtor, I needed to grow the business, right? That was where I was oriented. And so I finally realized, well, if I'm not going to do it, I probably should hire someone to do it. And so that's what early on in my career, I was, fortunate enough to get the right coaching and have the right mentorship for somebody to say, look, just hire somebody to be your client success manager. Like that means that you get to make the promise to the client, right? You get to make a really bold commitment that you're going to help them in some very unique ways, which they're not accustomed to. But then the person on your team is actually going to execute it. So they're going to do the post-closing call, right, where they explain how valuable we're going to be for the next 30 years. They're going to do the 90-day follow-up call. They're going to refer to CPA, financial planner, estate planning attorney. They're going to do the 6-month call. They're going to do the strike rate, perfect mortgage promise, where we're actively managing their mortgage. They're going to do the annual financial review every single year, where they are, helping our clients navigate the changes and evolutions of their life, where they are helping them set goals, figuring out what's going on with parents and children. They do all of that as a member of my team, right? So I can make the commitment and know that I can execute it. And then I have a lot of technology. I have layers of technology that I've embedded into the business that send our monthly real estate wealth digest, right? Where they use their financial wealth app, which is the Neo Experience app, where they get the home concierge so they can increase the value of that home more than just the market, right? So I use team technology systems to be able to scale my best intentions. Right? So I can tell you how valuable I'm going to be without blinking because I've built the infrastructure to execute on it, but I've never in my career met anybody who's been able to do both at scale. Right? So it's really not about being everything to everyone. It's really about building the infrastructure that allows you to make that type of promise and then go execute it to everybody.
It's interesting. This is just, I want to say it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was reading an article and it was geared more towards content creators, actually. But their language was, the language in the article was hunter and farmer, but it's the same concept, hunter
Yeah.
versus gatherer. And looking at the personality types really that fall into the two, and then the career types and how more creative types are, they're hunters, they're not farmers, or like you're saying, they're not gatherers. And if you want to succeed in the modern world with this personality type, that you need to adapt or implement systems into your workflow, into your processes that allows you to be the hunter, right? But still have the practices and the consistency of that of a farmer, like that of a gatherer.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people maybe outside of the industry can see LOs as simply more of the farmer or the gatherer type. They go to the office, it's like a 9 to 5 job.
Especially the mortgage professional of the future, right? Because what we should be doing today and into the future is vastly different than what we used to be doing. Right? We used to be pre-approving files, calculating income, looking at DTI, looking at guidelines, talking to underwriters, getting loans approved. We used to have to do all that. We don't have to do any of that anymore. Right? Our technology does that. Our teams do that. So the modern mortgage advisor really does two things. They give phenomenal advice, guidance, strategy, and planning to their clients, right? Helping them understand, can they buy a home? Should they buy a home? Is it the right time? How to do it? Money down, monthly payment, right? Like build the strategy to create a successful homeowner, short-term and long-term. And then if they're not doing that, they need to be talking to more clients and growing their business to make a larger impact. That's the mortgage
So
professional
on
of
that,
the future.
so let me ask you that. And I know it varies, obviously, on the LO and on the client, but big picture, painting with a broad brush, how often should LOs be initiating these proactive advisor sessions with clients every year? What do you recommend on a cadence there?
So for us, the first year is much more intentional and high touch than the subsequent years, right? Because
Mm,
we need to create a new habit and a new kind of neural pathway with that client. Because two things, no client is ever asking for what we do from a mortgage company, right? They don't
mm,
expect it, they're not asking for it, right? And secondly, when we tell them about it, it's not like they're just going to change their behaviors and now start to expect it. We need to kind of build it into their expectation mechanism moving forward, right? So the post close, and I'm actually, funnily enough, in 45 minutes, I'm hosting a webinar on this exact topic. There's about 700 mortgage professionals signed up for it, and it's the difference between post closing value and servicing.
mm-hmm. Okay.
Everybody thinks servicing is the way to retain the client. It's the most unbelievable thing that I've experienced in this mortgage business. But the best thing to do is just show that client how committed you are and then execute on that commitment. So the first thing we do is we talk about it on the first call with the client. If you're my client, I'm going to say, Zeb, here's why you should choose me. Anybody can do your mortgage. Here's why our clients choose us. Long-term commitment. Awesome. Then we're going to do our consultation before you write an offer on a property. Remember, we're going to help you before, during, but most importantly is how you're going to become successful after. That's why you should choose us. Great. Reinforce it again. When they go into contract, we do a contract meeting. We reinforce it again. Hey, we've done the heavy lifting. You're now going to be a homeowner, but the most important part of what we're going to do starts after closing. And then they close the transaction. I call you and say, hey, Zeb, in the next week or two, you're going to get contacted by the client success manager on my team. They're going to do a post-closing launch call with you, and they're going to tell you how if you thought we were valuable for the next 30 days, you're going to be blown away with what we do for you and your family for the next 30 years. So it's an incredibly important call. Make sure that you schedule time for it with our client success teammate. And then they do the entire post-closing call, explain everything, expectation setting. They do a 90-day call where they're then referring to CPAs, financial planners, estate planning attorneys, insurance agents, making sure that we kind of have the holistic guardrails and necessities in place. Then they'll do, shortly after, they'll set a strike rate call with the mortgage advisor where effectively we tell the client, hey, as soon as this strike rate hits, that's when we're refinancing because this is what's going to save you, this is how much it's going to cost, right? We'll be able to walk them through everything so they know that we are actively managing their largest liability and they don't need to worry about the noise out in the world. They do a 6-month check-in just to make sure that they're utilizing our services. Hey, I see you haven't logged into our financial services app in a while. I see that you haven't engaged with the monthly real estate wealth digest. Let's help you do that because again, nobody is expecting any of this, right? A lot of times they may not even be aware of what it is. So we have to continue to engage them in that first year. And then at the end of the first year, we do an annual financial review, commonly referred to or misappropriately referred to as a mortgage review. If you have a 3% interest rate, nobody wants their mortgage reviewed. End of discussion, right? So we call it an annual financial review because we review the totality of their finances. How's income going? How's assets? How's liquidity? Here's your updated credit score, right? Here's the updated home value. Let's do an equity analysis. How much longer are we going to be in this property? What's going on with parents? What's going on with children? What goals are we setting for the future, right? So the client success teammate is having that conversation. And then every subsequent year afterwards, they do an annual financial review. But intermittently, we have data through our CRM platform that tells us everything we need to know about that client. Are they pregnant? Death in the family, marriage, divorce, empty nest, increased, debt load. Like we have all the data about our clients that is effectively coming into our world. So at any point, we're going to know what they want or need before they'll likely know it, right? Mm-hmm. So then we can reach out and we can help them navigate those evolutions in their life. And then we can give them the right plan and strategy and path. And sometimes it might differ. It might stray from our original plan, strategy, or path. But at no point should any client surprise us with their expectations. No one should ever call us and say, hey, I want to buy, sell, or finance a home. because we
Right.
should be so proactively engaged with them that we help them decide when to buy, sell, or finance a property. It just takes technology, team, and structure. If it's all on the mortgage advisor, they'll fail every time.
Well, let me ask you that: what specific skills or training or learning paths have you found to be most critical or most helpful for LOs that are looking to make this shift, to make this transition into this more advisory role?
First thing is it just starts here, right? First thing is they have to A, believe that they can be incredibly valuable to their clients, and B, they have to want to be incredibly valuable to their clients. Like sometimes I talk about this and I realize like I might just be talking to some segment of the audience that just doesn't, they're not here for that, right? Like
Right.
they didn't sign up to help their clients grow their wealth. They signed up to sell loans,
Hmm.
right? So I don't want to talk people into something that's not in their DNA, right?
Yeah, I think that ties back into my first question about LOs that might or think that or perceive this as an additional thing to do on their checklist, and that's really not what you're talking about. It is a transformation into a different type of role entirely,
Yeah,
and through that yields the results that you're talking about.
that's the first step. Yeah. Step one, who do you want to be in the world, right? Like, what do you want to be known for, right? You want to be known as somebody who sells a lot of loans? Cool. Nobody's going to fault you for that, right? It's just that's not energetically appealing for me. There's nothing fulfilling
Yeah.
about selling a lot of loans, right?
Mhm.
So my orientation to the marketplace is that I want everybody at our organization, and ideally everybody in the mortgage industry at some point, I want us all to be known for the value we bring to a client's life before, during, and after a transaction. Because I believe that, then the next step is I better know what I'm talking about, right? So I'm going to meet with a CPA about my own tax situation, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions, right? And then I'm going to use both technology and my CPA or accounting resources. Every time I come across a file that looks interesting, I'm going to ask questions about the tax association, right? So I can say something like, Zeb, I'm not 100% certain, but I think that you might be leaving some money on the table from a, tax benefit perspective. Would you be interested in speaking to one of our tax planners? Right? Oh yeah, great, awesome. I just needed to have enough information to know what to look for to then get you to the right person, right? I don't need to be a tax professional.
Right.
Same thing with financial planning, same thing with estate planning, same thing with, in different types of insurances, generational wealth planning with parents and children. Like, if I know all that about my life, and if I'm constantly engaged with my own financial planner, with my own estate planning attorney, with my own insurance professionals, well, then I'm not only am I much more well suited and educated to give that information, but I don't feel like an imposter.
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of people struggle right there. It's like, am I really going to go give advice about financial planning and wealth management and tax stuff when my own financial house is in disarray? Right? It's just
Hmm.
nobody gives. Again, you can't give what you don't have. Right?
Hmm.
So step one, who do you want to be in the world? Step two, own it yourself. Right? Learn it yourself, practice it yourself, and then it's super easy to give it away. And then all you need to do is surround yourself with all the right teammates, people, and infrastructure. And now you get to go be this person. It doesn't actually take a lot more work. If it's done well, you actually spend less time doing more impactful work, right? Or less time on other things so you can do more impactful work. You feel way better about yourself. You help more families in a more significant way. But you just have to imagine a world where that can be true, right? And a lot of people, to your point, they just think it's all fluff and a bunch of flowery language. Which, if anybody
Right.
wants to see my webinar, I will show you proof that it's not flowery language. We have real evidence that substantiates if you do this, everything gets
Hmm.
better.
How long do you think that they'll continue to be relevant?
Not much longer, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Well, I
Yeah.
think fortunately for the mortgage advisors, right? Because again, if we want to be who we can be, if we want to create a new expectation of a mortgage professional, we have to continue to show that the advisory model is far more valuable and superior to the loan officer model. The loan
Mm-hmm.
officer model, we're seeing it every day. The only direction they have to go is just get cheaper, 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 cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wins that game ultimately, right? It's just a race to the bottom because everybody will see your product exactly the same as everybody else's product, which it is. Consumer already decided they want to get a mortgage or to buy a home or refi. They've already done all the mental gymnastics to get to that place. Now all they need is a pre-approval letter or somebody to fund their refi.
Yeah.
Nobody's committing to anything other than that. So now you have 5 options. Who in the world wouldn't pick the cheapest option?
Right. Well, and I also feel like there's the culling of the last 2 or 3 years and the years of higher rates is a good indicator or is a precursor to this as well, because you have so many. I know. I mean, personally, I know, and just industry wide, so many LOs that are no longer they're really struggling now and or no longer in the industry because they during the COVID low rate years, that refi boom, they did no purchase business. They just they didn't call their referral partners and talk to their realtors. They just went after those easy refis that was right in front of them. They made a killing for like a year and a half or so. And whenever rates started to climb and they started trying to touch back base with the realtors, that the realtors like, you were what relation? I thought we had a relationship. You forgot all about me, right? And so to me, you would that again. That's a precursor of obviously there's a difference between a referral partner, a realtor, and a buyer and a customer, but that the root of that relationship, how important those relationships are, and that role that you're talking about. I think, like I said, we've already seen that on the real estate side over the past several years, and the LOs they were just transactional, right? And they lost relationships with their referral partners, and either out of the industry now or are really struggling to still get those relationships back. So that makes total sense that would just evolve into the home buyer when, like you're talking about, all you have is, I got a cheaper rate than the guy down the road.
That's another characteristic trait of a really great mortgage advisor is that when they work with builders and real estate agents, financial planners, they don't have referral relationships. They have lending partnerships. And there's a massive distinction between those two things. Now,
Yeah.
one of my favorite questions to ask real estate agents is, have you ever had a legitimate lending partner, or have you pretty much always had referral relationships? And they
Yeah.
stop and think, and they're like, what's the difference? I'm like, it's night and day. So then we tell them what an actual lending partner experience
Yeah.
would be like in their business. And they're like, nope, we've never had that. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, right? And so mortgage advisors, again, are going to step into a void, right? Like there's a vacuum that was created when low rates went to high rates, and something always fills a vacuum. And mortgage advisors stepping into that vacuum to say, okay, we're going to work with all the top agents and builders, and we're going to be the most valuable people to our clients, right? And then everybody who doesn't step into that space is kind of going to be subject to whatever happens with the rest of the vacuum. And it's not pretty. And it's also not valuable. It's not doing anything
Right.
helpful for our industry.
Excellent. Look, hey, Ryan, look, man, I'm sorry. You're the first episode of the contributor conversations, and I was very happy that you were the first episode. I also knew that it was going to be a struggle for me to keep this under. I think I was going to try to keep it to 15 minutes, and I know that we blew way past that. So we're way over our time. And thank you for addressing these questions and the feedback that we got from the audience. And I'm going to follow up with you on a webinar because I'd like to explore some of this stuff for our audience in depth.
Love to do it, man. Can't wait.
All right, talk to you soon.
Thanks, Eb.